My name is Q. I'm an event producer in the entertainment industry. This podcast is me and my colleagues talking about how we got into the business, offering career advice, and just chatting about whatever's happening in the world today. Please enjoy. All right, welcome to another episode of the Q It Up podcast. I have a very special friend on the line today, man. You know what? Screw that. He's not a friend. This guy is family, man. We grew up in a business together. We kind of started in the same place within the organization, and I'm so proud of what this individual has accomplished in such a small time, man. Just seeing him working so hard, and I'm somebody that looks towards the future. So I see what this guy's ability and skills is going to do for him in the future of his career. So I am happy and blessed to welcome Ryan Records to the show.
What is up, man? Now that was an intro.
Yeah, man.
Can you come with me everywhere?
So what?
Can you just come with me everywhere I go and introduce me like that?
I will. No, let me give you this a note, and every time before you go on stage, just play that. It's like this guy. Awesome, man. Well, once again, I appreciate you hopping on the show, man. I know you got a busy schedule. It's bye week with the Texans.
Thanks for having me, though. Happy to be here.
Awesome, man. So the premise of the show is me just talking to my friends in the entertainment business, talking about our career journeys. And like I said, we had a similar path, but what you've done within the organization is just so amazing. But I want to take it back and start with Texas Tech. You went to Texas Tech. First of all, Why? Because I've been out there, man. That is a drive, or that is a long way away from civil any human beings.
Yes, it's basically the only thing out there. It was a little crazy. So obviously, I graduated high school in 2009, and when I was first deciding where I wanted to go, back in the fall of 2008, there was a sports moment heard around the world. Texas Tech took on Texas. And Michael Crabtree caught a touchdown with, 6 seconds to go, beating them when they were, ranked in top 5. It was this crazy moment. And I just remember watching that game with all my friends, and all my friends were big UT people. And shoot, I was a big UT guy as well. But I remember seeing that moment. The fans rushed the field. There was still time left on the clock. There was fans in the field. They had to kick off the next play with the fans lining the actual field. They were on field, out of bounds. The entire fan base there, they kicked the ball off. UT gets tackled, game over, boom, fans rush the court, rush the field again. I just remember I was like, that's the school I want to go to. That just seemed like it was so much fun. So I started doing some research, and I saw that it was out in Lubbock. And at first I was like, you know what? It's pretty far out there, but my parents go to U of H. They're like, oh, you can stay at home, you can commute uptown, and you can just live at home and go to college. I was like, okay, I'm going to try to go as far away from my parents as I possibly can. That in-state tuition, so Texas technically, but yeah, it's Lubbock's about an 11-hour drive if you drive the normal way, but if you know all the secret routes that cut through the middle of the state, you can get there about 8.
Oh, okay, nice. It's not bad.
I loved it out there.
Yeah, man. I went to school in West Texas, in Abilene, and just that 6 to 8 hour drive, man. I got to a point where I was used to it, but it's still, man, a drive, man. And this is before you had Spotify playlists and stuff like that. And
I had a lot of bird CDs.
Oh yeah, man. So what did you study in Texas Tech?
So originally when I went to school, I was actually studying architecture. So Tech has a really good architecture program, and that's what I thought I wanted to do. I was big into art in high school, and I loved just the design aspect of everything. So I went out there thinking I was going to design football stadiums and basketball stadiums and all these cool things, but realized really quickly the workload is absolutely insane. Just in general, I think I still have friends who graduated with their degrees in architecture, but all props to them, because it was insane even my freshman year, just the amount of work they throw at you. It's not like you get your basics out of the way. They drop you right in the deep end of the graphics and the design elements. And we were working with clay and all this different modeling and stuff that I had never done before. After my freshman year, I just knew, I was like, I can't do this. This isn't for me. It's not what I thought it was going to be. It's a lot more minutia, working with straight lines and kind of the micro elements, where I was more interested in the macro elements of getting to create this really cool building.
Yeah.
So Stayed in architecture for another year. So my first 2 years at Tech, I was technically studying architecture, and then I decided I want to switch majors. So ended up switching to advertising, which is mass communications. So it was kind of a big switch, but obviously there's still some connections with like the graphic design element, just design in general. So I thought for sure, I was like, you know what, I'm probably going to end up working in an ad firm or a marketing firm or something like that. But then my junior year, going into my senior year, I met this guy who had just graduated. He got a job with the White Sox. He had just graduated with a degree in advertising. I was like, well, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. Like, I love sports. I could totally work at a sports team. So that was what kind of kicked it off. At that point, I was like, all right, if I can do this, like, I'll get my degree, figure out a sports team to work for. Maybe one day I'll get to work with the Texans, who knows?
Yes.
But ended up working with the basketball team at Tech for about a year on their team, and also with the Alumni Association for about a year and a half. And then when I graduated, I tried to do everything I could to get in sports.
That's good, man. Well, yeah, man. I think your first pro gig was the Houston Dynamo.
Technically, yeah. So it was my first part-time job with the sports team.
Okay.
So yeah, when I graduated in 2013, I spent my first year out of college working for a rum distillery. So I was doing management for a local rum distillery, basically just running their social media accounts. All they had was Facebook. So I had them get an Instagram and a Twitter and help them run those for about a year before I started working in inside sales for the Dynamo. So I was just calling people up, people who had gone to the game the week before, and maybe they had, the first time they'd ever gone to a game, and just, hey, think you want to come to another game sometime? A lot of them said no. Some of them said yes. And it was a fun job, but it was not exactly the most fun. But when I first took the job, they told me, yeah, if you do this for a couple of years, maybe we can switch you over to the marketing side, find a role for you there. But I just couldn't do it. I was like, sales is a very special talent. The people that can do it really well make a lot of money with it, but it wasn't for me. So ended up leaving there to go work for the Astros and the Texans part-time. Okay. And that was around the time when I met you.
Yes. I think, did we do Battle Red together?
No, you were already the Mascot program intern whenever I joined
nice.
Battle Red. But yeah, the former Mascot was still there. So I caught you right at the end of your internship, because I started out Battle Red in March of 2016.
Oh, wow. Oof.
Or wait, no, 2014?
Oh, you're showing our age right now, Ryan. Oh, man. No, man. Yeah, absolutely, man. You came on board. You were somebody who was bright-eyed and was willing to learn and, get their hands dirty and figure out, how the system worked. And you did an amazing job, and it obviously paid off for you, man. So definitely happy with what you've accomplished. And we're going to get into what you accomplished in a second. But I want to stop this segment right here. And I love to do top 5. So I had texted you about it because I didn't really know what to do. Usually do rappers. But I'm
just saying, there's a Childish Gambino album sitting right there.
I mean, you know what? Let's start off with top 5 rappers since you got them ready.
All right. I can say I'm throwing myself into the deep end here. I wouldn't say that rap is necessarily my favorite music, but I do like rap music a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm big into vinyl. Obviously, my last name is Records, so I feel like it's a natural thing. I'm probably going to get hated on for all this. But are we doing top 5? This is just a general top 5, right?
No, yeah, general, your personal.
All this stuff. It's too much. Mm-hmm. Let's see. All right. So top 5, no particular order. I'm going to throw out Childish Gambino. Obviously, love his music. Loved his music for a long time. Kid Cudi, one of my favorites. Love his stuff. Obviously, as a white person, Eminem. He's got to be on the list. And even though he maybe has gone off the deep end a little bit, I'd have to say Kanye West. And of course, the best of all time, Jay-Z.
Okay. That's a decent list. I can respect. Kid Cudi does not get the respect that he deserves.
See, I will say, like, his music is not as, like, rap heavy. So I don't know if he can necessarily consider himself like a pure rapper. Mm-hmm. Music in general, I've always loved. So, and the fact that 3 is coming out, I mean, I've been listening to Kid Cudi like constantly the last few days.
Absolutely. All right, just to get your personal opinion, how did you feel about that last album that he did with Kanye West?
I mean, Kanye's music is always divisive because I feel like his music is fantastic and people can like resonate with his music, but his personal views maybe don't resonate with people as much.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes you have to kind of try to separate the person from the art a little bit. I try to do that as much as I can, just because, you know, you can take music for what it is. Obviously, music has this sort of background of being, there's got to be heavy messaging behind it. But if you can, when you can divide and you can just listen to music as music, I mean, Kanye puts out some great stuff. And especially, I mean, some of his older stuff is like,
oh yeah, legendary stuff, man. Dark Twisted Fantasy, top 5 album of all time. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh yeah, easily.
Awesome. All right, so part 2 of top 5. You're a gamer, so I was like top 5 games of all time. This is going back to Game Boy, first PlayStation, whatever you had. Top 5 games.
Boy. Top 5 games of all time. Okay. All right. Let's see. I got to think over this a little bit. I can throw out a couple real easy. These all kind of this spans like my entire life, I'd say. So my favorite, looking back, my favorite game when I was a kid was Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
So, PlayStation. It was one of the first games I'd ever played, actually. And I just remember being blown away because, like, it's funny, you look back, the graphics are horrible now. Like, at the time, that was, like, revolutionary, like, blew your mind. One that I really enjoyed in college, I'd say, was Mass Effect 2. My family, like, we watched a lot of sci-fi growing up. Mass Effect series is a big sci-fi series. So I think that came out my sophomore year of college. So I played that a whole bunch back then. And then what I play now, I play a lot of Destiny. So Destiny 2, me and my brother, we play all the time. It's how we stay connected. And then a couple of my friends from college and high school, we all play still. So those are, I would say, the easy top 3. Throw in a couple more. I mean, gotta say original Halo. I mean, that's fantastic. I put so many hours into that. And then one more. So we got Final Fantasy VII, Mass Effect 2, Destiny 2, Halo. And I just don't know. That last one, it's going to be tough. Let's see. You know, one that I always really loved was Super Mario 64. That's a great game.
Classic.
I mean,
Classic.
Or Smash Bros. I mean, you can't go wrong with Smash Bros.
Okay. I love Mario, but Smash Bros, man, I get like, it gets crazy to me sometimes. I feel like I want to catch a season when it starts going too fast, man. Like my wife's brother he be whooping my butt in that game. I'm like, how? I thought I was a king in this, and he just came in at it.
Knocked you down the pedestal.
Yeah, I know, man. Yeah,
I mean, there's some good Smash players out there. I am not one of them, but you know, you have those parties late night, get all your buddies over. I mean, I was always partial to Fox. Great character.
Oh, Star Fox. Oh, that was my game.
Star Fox 64. That's a good one too. But,
oh, absolutely, man. Have you seen the Sonic movie with Jim Carrey?
You know, I haven't. Okay. I remember just laughing when I saw the first trailer.
Yeah.
So bad. But luckily they went back and edited all that stuff. I mean, I heard it's good. I haven't gone and seen it. I mean, video game movies are always hard because most of them are really bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to like put yourself out there and want to see them. But I mean, if it's ever, you know, if it ever swings by on TV or it's free on Netflix or something, I'll check it out.
I got you. And what about the Detective Pikachu?
Oh, I saw that. I mean, I went in theaters.
What? You saw it in theaters?
Yeah. It was like me and my buddies one night. It was like I think it was kind of random, but it was like, hey, let's go see Detective Pikachu. You know, back when you could actually go out.
Yeah.
I know that's a crazy thought nowadays.
Yeah. It's just like me and my boss were just talking, and we were just like, people are going to be studying. You know how we study the 40s, 50s, 60s. People are going to be studying 2020. Like, man, that was crazy. That happened in 8 months. It's not even over yet. So,
yeah, who knows what they'll say at the end of all this. But yeah, no, you're right. It's going to be very strange to look back on, especially like 100 years from now. And they're like, oh, yes, 2020.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But I'll ask you about those 2 movies because they're potentially trying to create a universe within that realm, taking the Pikachu movie, then a Sonic movie. They're supposed to be doing Sonic 2, then potentially a Super Smash Bros. Style universe. How do you feel about that?
I think I heard about that. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I guess the hard thing is so many of those like styles don't mesh. So I feel like a movie would be so like, it'd be so CGI heavy. It would take pretty like good group of people to put together. And I think it's hard to meld those stories. And the trouble is, at least they're trying to do it in the right way. Because like what Marvel did is they kicked off all the cinematic universe hype. But they started with the individual movies. So many other people were just like, we just want to start with the big movie and then we can branch everything out, which is what DC tried and failed to do, obviously. But like if they're gonna, start with a couple like movies here and there, Sonic, Detective Pikachu, a Mario movie, are they gonna do that? Like they're gonna start with the base of it and then maybe build to something bigger. Like I could see that working.
I got you. And thing is, I think it's easier in their realm where Marvel, you have these actors and you have to be mindful of time, aging, and of course, we see what had to happen to Chadwick Boseman. Black Panther was a classic staple in Marvel, and I was excited for the second this part 2 of that storyline, and they're still trying to scramble and figure out what they're going to do. But I think CGI, it makes it easier. It's voice actors, and you can change up the voices as well. So it may be 20 years from now before we see something similar to a Justice League or Avengers from that spectrum.
True.
Are you a Marvel head or DC?
I mean, when I was a kid, I remember there was a Justice League cartoon that was out when we were younger. So I would that a lot. But I mean, so I'd say like younger, I would lean more DC. But then nowadays, I mean, it's hard to really like DC stuff because most of their stuff has been so bad. But I mean, I'll always check out Batman, Superman movies. Like, those are classics.
I got you. I think it was after Justice League, I literally like compiled a list of movies that they should have done before they got to Justice League. And I pretty much did the whole universe. I was like Justice League 1, 2, 3, Suicide Squad, Joker. I had a whole list, actors, villains, and everything. And I wanted to mail it to Warner Brothers so bad. I'm like, you guys failed me.
This is what you should have done.
And now they're doing absolutely. And now they're doing the reshoot with the Snyder cut. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a fan at first, but knowing that they're doing so many shoots to where it's not just going to be a 2-hour movie where they added a little piece here. They look like they're trying to add major pieces because it's supposed to be a 5-part thing on HBO Max. So
yeah, I think they added Deathstroke back in, right? Because he got the original like Whedon cut.
Yeah,
back in now. So
yeah,
Manganiello back in.
Absolutely. Him, Joker, all those guys back in. Then I was just like, Harley Quinn has been doing so well, and still the second Suicide Squad movie is about to come out. Wasn't a fan of the first one, but it's still a good group to really follow. It was like the Guardians of the Galaxy. You really didn't know about that group. Yeah. They tried to follow the scripts, but they're not Marvel. But hopefully, what my thoughts on that is, they're gonna put this Snyder cut out. They're currently about to work on the Flashpoint movie, and I think the Flashpoint movie is going to erase everything, and they're going to start over. We may have a Twilight Batman or something like that. I don't know.
Could work. I mean, that could work.
Mm-hmm.
The new Batman looks pretty good.
Yeah, Twilight Batman. He doesn't look bad. I like it, and I kind of agree with not having, I guess, those movies in their own universe. It's like, why do you have to attach each one? Why can't it be a standalone? And I think they did a great job with the Joker.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you can have those standalone movies and then maybe down the road start to say like, well, turns out they are in the same universe because they all worked out and we can try to meld them all together. Mm-hmm. But like, just create a good movie and then focus on creating this like insane universe down the road.
Absolutely.
People forget like there was a Hulk movie back in like 2003 with Eric Bana.
Yeah.
Like even then, so that was way before. So that movie was, I don't remember being very good, but it was something, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. After that, you have Hulk and Iron Man come out, and I don't think they were really planning on doing something, but they did that little teaser at the end of like, maybe this is a thing. Mm-hmm. You can kind of throw the hook out there and see what people think before like going all in.
Absolutely. And just the after credit scenes, I think it's a Marvel staple. Any other movie puts that, and I was like, no, you're just stealing from Marvel. That's Marvel's thing. Get it out of here. So, but yeah, man, that's a good talk. I'm excited for what DC has. One thing that DC is great at, they're not live action. One thing they're great at are the animated movies. Have you seen those? Like your Flashpoints, your Darks, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I've seen some of them. I don't think I've seen all of them, but I've seen some of them.
Okay. If
I know
you
all the Batman stuff. Like they always do a good job with those.
absolutely, and it's like true to the DC world. I think they tried to be Marvel and the Disney Miles, be nice. It got to be kid friendly. No, Batman is breaking arms and you know it's blood, is cussing, and I like that element from DC. Like stick to that recipe for your brand, but you definitely
Yeah,
get that in the animated version.
that's true. I mean, like once again, like they knew they could do that stuff. They've been doing DC, cartoons for the longest time. So
Hmm.
I don't know why. I mean, obviously, live action sells probably better, but
Hmm. Gotcha. All right, so diving back into career talk, you were at the Astros for about 10 months as a guest services associate. Tell me a little bit about what you were doing there.
well, it's a fancy way of basically saying I was an usher. So I was just the guy standing at the top of the section that check your ticket and say, "Yeah, you're good." It was a fun job. It was one of those things like, I grew up an Astros fan, and
Mhm.
I basically got a season worth of tickets and I was paid to do it. So, I was working up the club. So that was really cool. Made some fun, cool connections there. And, you just see a different aspect. Because at that point, all I had done was I'd worked with marketing a little bit in college. And I mean, I was part of the street team. So it's not even that. It's more like you're just doing giveaways and stuff. You're going to the student union, passing out flyers,
Grassroots.
giveaways at the stadium as people are coming in the doors. You're just doing like real basic things. So then I worked in sales with the Dynamo. So I saw once again a kind of a different aspect. So with the Astros, it was more of the guest services where you're seeing the fans and you're interacting with people and you just kind of realize that there's a lot going on in a sports team. Like there's not just, four roles, there's thousands and so many people come together to make those days work. And I mean, baseball series they're rough. You have four games back to back to back to back.
Mhm.
So you learn real quickly, like things turn around and just baseball is different than football, which is different than basketball. There's just so many more things that go into each sport.
Yeah, awesome, man. So you were doing guest services associate, usher,
Mhm.
and Battle Red Stampede, in which both positions kind of coincide with each other in some way. You're doing the grassroots marketing. Then you had the opportunity to go for the marketing internships. Tell me about that process. Why did you choose that internship, and what was the interview process like for you?
Well, so when I was in Battle Red, so I joined in March, and I just remember from March to August, like picking up as many whatever job I could find, but like there just wasn't as many like opportunities, just because I mean that's kind of when football's not is it's the off season. So
Mhm.
season picked up, I was working basically every single day, even though I was part time. I could always find a shift or something I was doing it on the weekends. I'd go in on Fridays and I was helping out in the office getting ready for games. And then on Saturdays, I was generally working an event somewhere. And then on Sundays, we had game days. So like during a home game, I was working probably 5 or 6 days a week, only working a couple hours a day, but I was at least working every single day part-time. So then knowing that like that, the off season was coming back, I was like, I've got to find something else I can do because I'm not going to be able to cover my little, apartment with my part-time salary. So I was like, all right, the first thing that pops up, like I'm going to go for it. So the marketing internship with the Mascot program had opened up because the guy who was doing it before me had taken a full-time job in Colorado. So I was like, okay, cool. It's with the Mascot, but it's still a marketing internship. Like I can probably do that, cover for a little bit, and then maybe in May I can look to reapply for the full year marketing internships and then, go from there. So at first I saw it as like a stopgap. I was like, all right, I'll take over, do a couple months, make a name for myself, and then I can go for one of the other internships that I would want more. But it was kind of funny too, because I don't think there was as much interest. And I think sometimes people forget that, yeah, a mascot is a furry character, but there's still a lot that goes into that. And so that was what I learned too, is like, it's not just, follow someone around and hold on to the autograph cards. Like there's a lot that goes into running a mascot program. And I think some of it was good timing just because, my boss, Andrew Johnson, who's been on the podcast, he looks at this mascot program in a totally different light than a lot of people do. I think some of that's just his background, some of it's just his experience. But if I had worked, I'm not saying that the former Toro, the former mascot for the Texans, was doing anything different. But I don't know if I would have had the same opportunities, because I think we probably would have gone in a different direction than me and Andrew. So me and Andrew just resonated really quickly. So in those couple of months when I first took that internship on, I kind of saw like, this isn't just a mascot. He sees things in a different light. This is, a sub brand of the Texans. It's not just Toro. It's still the Texans. So using that, I was able to say like, you know what, like this isn't just a stopgap. Like I need to come back for this internship. So even though I applied for the other ones and didn't get the other marketing interns or internships, luckily Andrew decided to bring me back for the full year.
Nice. That's awesome, man. And I think that was a great analogy when you said it was a stopgap and it was a sub brand. Absolutely, because like you said, so much goes into that, and you're running your whole department because you are the image of the organization when you're out at events. They're not saying, hey, that's the guy who works for the Texans, like, oh, Texans mascot. So within that program, you had a lot of opportunities, and you're right, Andrew did see the program in a different way from the previous individual. And I think just his experience and age kind of played a gap into that. I don't want to say it's a young man's game, but it's just how, you're able. I think marketing always change in how you approach things. And we can all say that social media completely changed everything, how we operate in this world. So can you just go a little bit into what you did in your internship and what things you started to implement within the program?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I didn't say social media, it changes, week to week sometimes. So even just in the few years that I've been with the Texans working with the mascot program, things have changed. Like I remember when I first took over as the intern, I was big into graphic design. So I think I had a copy of Photoshop on my like personal laptop still. And so when I was working for the rum distillery, I had basically used my like very limited graphic skills to like design a menu for them. I put out a couple like really simple like graphics for them, just like taking basically like a Photoshop bottle and sticking it on, like a random background or something. Like I was doing like very amateur stuff, but it was something that I guess I kind of gained some skills coming out of advertising. You learn Photoshop a little bit, you learn layouts. So you kind of have like a basis of design. I wasn't very good at it, looking back, but, it started something. So when I first started with Toro, I was big. My thought was, all right, like I can take what I know, social media, graphic design, and kind of like try to make a mark. And I think Andrew, he had just finished up his first year. So he was still trying to like figure out what the program was going to be like. So he wasn't focusing on social media as much. He was posting a lot of stuff. Most of it was just photos. So I was like, all right, well, let me, I can redesign some pieces. I think I did a new header for our Facebook and our Twitter and like a couple of the random graphics and stuff like that. Once again, not very good, but make a mark. So, I tried to kind of show off as much as I could and try to take my skills and say like, look what I can do. And then another part where I was like, I can kind of make a mark on this. One of the biggest things that Toro does is go into different schools and do educational programs. So he had 3 educational programs we were working with, a fitness show, an anti-bullying show, and then a STAR prep show. So kind of like, standardized testing. There's just kind of a positivity message behind that. And when I took over, it was a DVD basically. So the intern would hook everything up, mascot gets ready, and then we just kind of stand there. And when the kids are all seated down, I'd look at a teacher, kind of go, thumbs up, yep, you can start. And she had a little script she'd read from. So she'd, hello kids, we're, here with the Houston Texans and they have a cool message for us. And she'd get to a certain point in that script and I would hit play on the DVD. And then basically I would just, sit back, my thumbs. And there was a couple times where like I need to hand a sign or something like that out or had to move something. But like, my role at the school programs was just bare minimum. And I remember Andrew, I think he mentioned it. It was probably towards the end of the year as we were kind of kicking up towards our STAR program. He was just like, I just wish there was something else we could do. Like we hand this script to a teacher and, teachers are great, but they're not public speakers. And a lot of times, they speak in front of their kids, but big groups and stuff like that. And they don't know the Texans brand. Like they're literally just reading off a piece of paper. It's like, I wish we could have somebody who could kind of take over that role and be the voice of the Texans when Toro was there, because obviously Toro's not talking. So I started thinking, I was like, man, I could do that. Like, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily an outgoing person. Like, I'm not like the most like boisterous person in the world. I'd say generally I can be pretty like to myself just because I like to be to myself. But I mean, like I can be loud, I can have fun. So I was like, I could do something like that. So as we finished up my first year, I kind of basically talked to Andrew and I was like, hey, look, I don't know if this is a possibility, but if we could make this work, I'd love to come back full time, and like we could really kick off these school programs, and like I could host the school program and we could make something real cool and special out of this. And he was like, like I'm not sure what the team will think, but like let's figure it out. So we kind of sat down, we put together this like 11-page proposal about like what the new school programs would look like, what I would be doing in this role. And we took that proposal all the way up to the top. So I remember taking it to Andrew's boss, and then Andrew took it to the president of the team, and the president took it to the owner, and it went all the way up to the top and then came all the way back down. They're like, you know what? Let's do it. You're hired. So I was like, I couldn't believe it, because at first it was like one of those things like, people always say like, if you want something, you have to figure out how to make it happen. But I did not think that I would actually get to make it happen, because I mean, like I said, I always wanted to work for a sports team, but I didn't think I would just start off with my hometown team, a team that I've been watching since 2001. I figured I'd end up, doing an internship for with the Texans, and then working for the, Chicago, White Sox, and then end up working for the Trenton Thunder, and then, with the Carolina Panthers, and then maybe someday I could get back to the Texans. So like, I never thought in any way, shape, or form I'd kick it off my career with the Texans.
Yeah, man, I'm so proud of you. And the thing is, like, they've always said in that role, like the person prior to Andrew, they fought to have an intern, and the interns set minimum wage, and to us it's just like, how we are an NFL franchise, how can we not afford to add another position onto the team that doesn't have benefits and who's working for minimum wage? And it just didn't make sense to me. And including myself, it was only 4 people prior to yourself that held that position. So the fact that you were able to create something new within an organization in your own way, and especially dealing with that school program, bro. I used to hate those DVDs. Oh my God.
Yeah. And I will say, like, they were, yeah. And I mean, just, the hard thing too is, NFL players, they're really good at football, and some of them are really outgoing, and they're able to market themselves. But, there's this weird line of like, the players, there generally was like 2 or 3 players. I guess it was 2 players and a cheerleader in the DVD. Mm-hmm. And you want a player who is well known, right? To face someone recognizes, which in football is really difficult. With the basketball players, everybody recognizes, everyone knows who LeBron James is, mm-hmm. Carmelo Anthony, like, they know the big name people. Giannis, like, they just recognize their face. You don't even need to, say their name. They just know who that person is. Football players, not so much. Like, they always have a helmet on. They've got eye black. Like, they look completely different off the field versus on the field. So, when you throw Brian Cushing up on a DVD, you say like, hey, this is number 56 linebacker for the Texans, Brian Cushing. Like, people are kind of like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I think I recognize him. Like, it kind of, you recognize him. But overall, like, unless it's one of those top, tier players of your team, that face means nothing to them. Like, the number is more important than their face. Mm-hmm. So, and from that, let's say now you've got a really well-known player, but is that player going to be the most talkative person in the world? Because I just remember we filmed once with somebody, and like, it must have been a bad day or something. They were just not in it. It was, just weren't feeling it. They're reading off a teleprompter. They got in, got out, and they were just like, all right, cool, I'm done. And so then you could just tell every single time you hit play on that DVD, you're like,
yeah,
doing it like
he's being held hostage.
Yeah. So yeah, the DVDs, like, they worked for what they were doing. And I mean, on top of the fact, like, back in the day, y'all were doing like a bunch of school programs.
Oh yeah.
Did like 120.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think my internship, we probably did 100. So we took some off. I remember they had decreased our allotment because all the programs are sponsored. So each program has a different sponsor, and they pay for X amount of shows. So 50 shows for the bullying, 30 shows for the star, yeah, whatever, however many. I think used to do like 40 for fitness, but they had decreased for my year. Mm-hmm. Go to as many schools as y'all did. But on top of that, like, going to that many schools and setting up this giant screen and, getting all the kids into the gym. Like, it just takes a lot of work. So being able to set up a DVD player with a projector and just saying like, hey, we're good, that's easy. You don't have to worry about all the other like, details. But when we took over, we knew if we're going to put more work into this and make this big scripted show and have it be something where there's a live host and we can interact directly with the kids, and we can say, hey, welcome, we're so happy to be here at Ashford Elementary or wherever it is. Like, it just kind of adds another layer, but it's just a lot more work to do that. So we've even decreased how many programs we've done since then. So it just takes a lot more to get that level.
Absolutely. And I think you diminish the value by doing so many, even though Houston's large. We went from Rosenberg all the way up to the Woodlands. We went wherever we were allowed to go. But 120 schools each year, you start to, double up. And even though, some of these, you may have the special occasion where a kid may catch the program twice and you'll hope it's a new DVD or new player in that particular program. But like you said, dealing with the players in their acting skills, you may get the one who's very good, but he may not be recognizable, or you may want, even he is recognizable, he may not be in the mood that day. But I don't remember which player, but I specifically remember a player got cut in the middle of one of our programs in the middle of the school year, and we were just like, and at that point, you don't have assets of the players or any backup, so we just didn't know what to do. And of course, as a DVD, it's not as customizable as you being able to do what you have to do. So
yeah, exactly. Because nowadays, if that was to happen, we could just, I could cover the information. Actually, we've decreased it to where it's just one player. So there's still a pre-recorded player call and there's a pre-recorded cheer call, but those are the only two, I guess, pre-recorded assets. But even if the player did get cut, like, we could still cover and just have me cover that information and have one call in from a cheerleader. And kids, they enjoy that. We've built it we have this kind of fun like game of like, I think it's Toro's phone. So like the phone rings. I'm like, Toro, why did you leave your phone on? So it just kind of adds it. Cause like you can see kids, especially like younger kids, they buy in. They're like, oh, cool. This is a phone call. This is awesome. But the older kids, you can kind of see them like, this isn't I've seen a video call. This isn't FaceTime. This isn't Skype. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
All things happen, right? Like, Toro waves or something and they react to that. So it's like there's this interaction between the screen and what's happening in real life, and they're kind of like, oh, like maybe this isn't real. This must be happening live. Like, they kind of set themselves on it after a couple magic moments you kind of create. So that's pretty cool, just being able to go to these schools and do these cool things. And especially after the program, kids like, oh, did JJ Watt really just call into our school? And you're like, yes. And they're like, I can't believe it. Like, it just blows their mind that someone, obviously JJ has a lot of other things going on in his life. He's got practice every single day. He does a lot in the community as well. He can't make it to, 80 schools, but we can take this message and record it and send it to these kids. And to them, it's as real as if he had actually said it, because in the grand scheme of things, he is saying it to them. We're just taking it in a different medium and applying it and showing it to them technically out of context, but it still has that same like force.
Absolutely. And I think it's also important concepts as well. Bullying. I think that's a lesson that is important from no matter what age group you're a part of, and delivering it at that age for them to be able to catch on to the concept has a major impact on their lives. So definitely kudos to you and Toro for delivering that to the Houston community, man. If a school were interested in trying to get that program, hopefully, I guess in the spring, what steps would they take to try to go about that?
Well, we used to obviously have a big nomination process. So we had a form online, and we had a little nomination form. So you put in what school you're at, your contacts, and a little blurb saying why you think Toro should come to your school. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll make it out to any schools this year, even in the spring. I just think with COVID, I don't think schools are going to be ready for us to be out there.
Okay.
But we've really tried hard to take this content and basically bring it to as many people as possible. So what we did is we basically have done 2 of our programs. So we had our fitness program and our bullying program, and we basically re-recorded them or redone them and made them a live YouTube show. So with this whole pandemic, we basically launched a YouTube for Toro.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to be at home, we're creating digital content, we better have like a video platform to put it all on. So Toro made a YouTube. I think we launched it basically a couple weeks ago. We've been creating content for it for a long time, but we finally launched it and put it out there. And so the first one we did was our fitness program. So the fitness program was actually really cool. So it used to be the same DVD program where we'd sit the kids down, hit play on the DVD, and we would talk about how important fitness is, right? In the NFL, there's this big play 60 message. So, go outside, play for 60 minutes a day. And that's enough exercise for a kid as long as you're getting your 60 minutes. Well, we'd sit these kids there for 45 minutes listening to this DVD play. And not once would we tell the kids like, hey, let's get up and do some jumping jacks. And it just felt so off. Like, why are we doing a fitness show and the kids aren't actually moving at all?
Yeah.
So this was probably 2 or 3 years ago. Sometimes my years get mixed up. I remember talking to Texas Children's Hospital, our sponsor, and Andrew as well, and saying like, what would y'all think about us actually doing some exercise at one of these programs? Like, maybe we shorten the show a little bit, but at the end of the program, we do like a couple exercises, knock out a couple jumping jacks, do some squats, just something to get the kids' heart rate. And they're like, honestly, we love that. So we sat there and we started thinking, we're like, what if we redesigned this program? We took the DVD out of it. We took the whole sit down and watch videos out of it. We said, let's just do some exercise. So I basically rewrote our entire fitness show and created this full program that was more interactive, more, active too. So we have the kids get up and we do exercises, and we've basically focused in on 4 different parts of being active. So there's muscular strength, there's your cardiovascular health, there's nutrition, and there's also flexibility. So those are the 4 kind of key tenets when it comes to being a healthy and a fit person. So we took each of those things and we created a game off of them. I remember I basically did like a bunch of market research. I just went and like Googled like PE games. And also a buddy of mine who's a PE teacher. So shout out to Austin LaFoy, because he helped me come up with these games as well. I remember I sat down with him. I drove all the way out to Brook High School, Clearbrook High School. And like for an hour and a half, I just like ran these ideas by him. Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And he gave me some like really good feedback on all of it. But we had all these 4 games, and we had been doing the program for about a year, and then probably, I guess, actually 2 years. And with all the COVID stuff, we're like, well, this is the perfect time to say, let's take these games and put them online. So we recorded a full week of content. So you go to Toro's YouTube, it is Get Fit with Toro Week, and each one of the episodes focuses on one of those parts. So flexibility, muscular strength, cardiovascular, fitness, and also nutrition. So that content's out there for anyone to find on Toro's YouTube. And we did the same thing this month. Obviously, it's October, which is National Bully Prevention Month. So this whole month, we've been kind of putting content out there, talking about our bullying program. So we were able to record with David Johnson, who's our running back this year, and one of our cheerleaders, Jacqueline, who was actually bullied in high school. We have it's about, I think it's a 15-minute program, but just talks about how you can handle bullying, how to identify bullying, and what you can do if you're being bullied. So even though we can't come to these schools and bring this program to them directly, we've put the program online, virtual, so they can watch the content and still get the message.
Hey, Ryan, man, always creating things, always making changes, man, doing big things, man. Like, and just being completely honest with you, like, I have no idea what this program would be without you guys being as innovative as you guys are. So definitely kudos to you guys bringing that to the Texans organization, man. Man, you have done a lot, man, and that's like not even a small percentage of your job. We literally just talked about 3 of the programs you're in charge of. You still got game day, you got social media, you got external events and corporate obligations. You have a big part on the social media and game day aspect. Can you tell me a little bit about that? And what's your role within those 2 things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I first started as an intern, I was recording content, but I wouldn't necessarily post as much. I mean, I was I was comfortable posting on social media for like a account because I had been doing brand management for that rum distillery once again. So I was able to write captions and stuff like that. I still wasn't, I still was learning. And I think the difficult thing was just learning Turo's voice. I mean, obviously, as a character, Turo has his own voice and he's a person, right? So he's going to write a tweet one way. And so I might write a tweet one way, and then Andrew, my boss, is going to write a tweet one way, but Turo is going to write it one way. And we write tweets like Turo. So I think that was my first year. I was just trying to learn. So I was recording content. And another thing, Snapchat had just gotten big. So my first year basically was like, hey, what do you think about us launching a Snapchat? Like we can do a Toro Snapchat and post all of our content to this, to our story. So I was doing that and getting content for other platforms, but not really posting on it. And after the year had kind of come through, Andrew was like, hey, if you're going to be full-time, like I think, you could really help out and you could really build our game day presence by taking that content and posting it to other platforms. I mean, if you ever, I know most people probably don't follow mascots on social media, but like if you do, you'll notice, there's basically kind of a content window. Guys will post stuff up to the game time. And then during a game, they don't post anything. But right after a game, they're going to post a whole bunch of stuff. Well, during the game, they're busy, right? Like they're helping cheer on the crowd. They're doing skits. They're doing whatever it may be. They can't be on their phone and sending out content. But I can. So I could get that content, record it, and send it out. So we had this huge push my years when I was an intern to basically take this content we were getting on field and putting it out real time. So if you're watching the game at home and you're, a lot of people too, like they might be watching the game on TV, but they'll have their phone next to them. They're just kind of swiping through Twitter or they're on Facebook or on Instagram or whatever it may be. And you're seeing content from Turo as you're watching the game. So we were really big on that. I'd like to say, we have probably the best game day presence of any mascot in the NFL. Some other guys out there, they're doing fantastic stuff. They do hilarious skits. They do really cool things on the sidelines. They're pump the crowd up. But most of that content goes out after the game. So they might beat us when it comes to just creativity or putting out like really funny stuff. But in game, as things are happening, I think we have the best in the NFL just because we have this basically group think. We're taking the entire week up to, we have a big social calendar. We have a social calendar just in general for every day. And we also have a game day social calendar. So we're planning and kind of walking through what game is going to look like. And after a while, all the games are kind of the same, right? You got pregame, you're going to see some fans at some point. You've got some sort of skit before the game. You have the start with team intros and stuff like that. So you always kind of know like where your stuff's going to come from, what's going to look like when. So you can kind of plan out like, okay, if we have a skit first quarter break, like let's post something at halftime so we can take this content and plug it in there. So we just, after all these years of kind of figuring out how this works, we'd have a pretty good little window. Then this year happened and everything's gotten thrown out the window. We've had to kind of create a plan, but I think, the big thing we were always doing is when we're thinking about what we're doing on game day, we're trying to figure out like, how can we take that content and put it online? And obviously there's always going to be copyright concerns. So we've had to worry about music and some things. So even though like in the stadium, we might have a video that plays and it might have a song from AC/DC in it. But then when we post that on social media, we're going to need to find a free sourced music, something that basically does the exact same thing. It's the same song, but obviously we're not going to get dinged for it. So sometimes there's those kind of fights, but I think we've gotten to a point where we're pretty good at all that. But our biggest focus on game day nowadays is probably our story on Instagram. So some of the Instagram story and then putting content out on Twitter and on Instagram. So.
Yeah, man. And I hate that, all these, and I understand 2020, a lot of things have happened and a lot of companies kind of had to shift focus and a lot of record labels are putting their focus and their foot on the necks on a lot of creatives out on social media by utilizing their music without permission. But Toro was really big on TikTok. He was starting to grow. He even did a whole bunch of interviews and other talent within the NFL, NBA, and MLB were reaching out to you guys to figure out how can I replicate that. And the fact that now you guys had to step away from that, man, I feel like it's a lot of work wasted, but it is a lot of opportunities that are going to open up in the future for you guys because you kind of already have that skill set that you learn from managing those type of things, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's crazy to think. That feels like it was a long time ago. Obviously the pandemic had been going for 7-8 months now. And I mean, we had kind of hit a roadblock, and I think on our TikTok game around that time. Like it's a platform that kind of demands a lot of time from you. You know, you've got to be up to date. You know, trends can happen, you know, in a flash. Like you might have something pop up one day and be gone the next day. So yeah, for last season, 2019 season, we were big into TikTok. And you know, it's so funny to think like we had built this huge platform. I think we had gotten like 600,000 followers or something at one point. And then when the pandemic hit, it just became too difficult to keep creating content, on top of the fact that there was that big wall of like, okay, well, now you need to be really concerned about using copyright music. So even if, you know, whatever content creator who has 1 million followers, because they're not tied to the Texans, you know, they might not get come after, but because we're tied to the Texans, we need to be worried about those things. So we can't go after every trend. We'd have to kind of create our own stuff. So even though there were some trends that we would have liked to create content for, we weren't able to. Like we just try to kind of skirt the edges and stay within the lines. We made some good content. We had a lot of fun with TikTok, but I mean, it was one of those things that I think even now you're starting to see people are trying to figure out where TikTok fits into the, you know, the national social media game. I mean, Instagram put out their Reels competitor.
Yeah.
So we've been posting some Reels. So it's like you said, you know, it was this very strange kind of like platform that was like flash in the pan, came out of nowhere and surprised a lot of people. But we're taking everything we learned from that and applying it to our other spots. So you know, it's definitely helped out in the grand scheme of things. Just thinking platform specific, I guess, was the biggest thing. Because, you know, a lot of times you have a cool video, you want to post it on everything, right? You know, you have a different following on Facebook, you have a different following on Instagram, you have a different following on Twitter. Let's just post that video on all 3 platforms. And that works for a video, but might not work for like a real post.
Yeah.
You know, a photo isn't going to play the same on all 3 unless you have like a really good caption on some of the other ones. So we just, you know, take what we've learned and basically created content specific stuff for all those platforms.
I got you, man. And like I said, I was really excited for you guys because you guys, yes, it was a flash in the pan, but you guys are getting to a point where you were becoming your own like social media star. You were becoming the King Batch and the Timothy Delgados or something like that. Like Toro is his own thing because you guys had a lot of people reach out to you to try to do something together. And I was like I told you before, I think past that. I think about the future opportunities. So now it's like when it's time to get those captains to the game or try to create new content or even, you know, what we do before a season is where we do like this big brainstorm and come up with ideas for skits for the games. Maybe we can now reach outside our circle and reach out to producers and other social content individuals and bring them into those conversations. But of course, 2020 happened. But you guys have done a great job to pivot. You guys focus on in regards within your program. So man, once again, kudos to you, man. You've been doing an amazing job, man. So we're getting towards the end of the conversation. I just wanted you to take this space to promote whatever you got going on yourself. And if you want people to reach out to you for questions, whatever, how can they be able to do that?
Yeah, definitely. I'd say, you know, Toro's YouTube is kind of the biggest thing I'd like to promote. Obviously it's content created for kids mainly, but you know, every now and then there might be a funny little laugh on there. And obviously we'll take any subscribers that we can. And it's just so crazy too, because I've joked with Andrew a couple times and with some other people too. Like back when the pandemic first started, we talked about taking our content, you know, as much of it virtual as we possibly could. I didn't think that would mean basically becoming YouTube content creators. So like I just joked, I was like, yeah, we're basically just YouTubers nowadays. You know, it's all we do is just think about how we can make what new YouTube video we can create, or how we can take something and apply it to YouTube. And so my job has basically become just writing scripts for our YouTube. So every single day I'm, you know, doing market research, watching videos, trying to figure out like, how can we take this and how can we write a video for Toro? So I'm writing scripts. I actually wrote a commercial for one of our, corporate sponsors during the off season, or I guess a couple months ago. So Houston Eye Associates, if you ever see a commercial Toro, I wrote that.
Nice.
So I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily the best scriptwriter in the world, but, you know, every now and then maybe something's good in there. But I guess outside of that, also my dad wrote a book. I feel like I should do that.
Nice.
So Spies Like Us, you can buy it on Amazon. So yeah, Spies Like Us, written by L. Russell Records. Go check that out. So my dad's a published author nowadays. And between those two things, those are my big focuses, I'd say.
Okay, I need to get the book. I need to get it signed.
My dad will sign it for you. Yeah, he's been doing signings all over my hometown, back in League City down south near Clear Lake. But yeah, no, I can always get him up here. He can sign a book for you for sure.
That's amazing, man. Like,
and if people have other questions or anything else they want to ask me, I guess they can send me an email. So ryan.records@houstontexans.com is my personal or my professional email. And then ryan.m.records@gmail.com is my personal one.
I got you, man. Well, awesome. I really appreciate you hopping on this episode, man. Like I said, I'm so proud of everything you've done. My future for you is you're going to be the new GM of the Houston Texans. That's it. They're signing. They're getting the paperwork together. They're ready to come.
I don't know about that. Back in the day, when you're playing Madden and stuff, you always joke about one day becoming the GM, but like working for the team, you just see I think I work a lot of hours. Those football ops guys, their hours are absolutely insane. We'll get in at 7 a.m. to go to an appearance and they're already there. And then we leave at, we get back from schools and we go into the office for a little bit and then leave at 6. Back when we were going to the office, they're still there. So I'm pretty sure they would never leave the office during the season. But, I'm sure, obviously right now we're interim GM, whoever we bring in next year, I know they're going to do a good job. I'll be a Texans fan no matter what. Say we're going to win a Super Bowl one of these years. I know it. It's going to be good, but I appreciate your support, Q. You're the best. And like you said, there's a lot that goes into this. And mascot program for the Texans, Toro, probably the best mascot in the world. So if we ever want to do a part 2, I'm down.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. Thank you once again for hopping on, man. And I hope you have a great evening. This has been another episode of the Q It Up Podcast.